All right, let's bring in Darren Dreger this morning. Dregs, we appreciate the time as always. Don't be distracted by our CFL tampering window. It's been very busy.
See that.
It's been going really well. Ed Hervey yesterday getting a bunch of different guys, so that's why the tampering window's up today. So don't worry.
Yeah, but is that a soft tampering window or is that a full tampering window?
Well, this one is full glass. I don't think we could break this one, so I would have to say it's full.
Hervey could.
Yeah,
Hervey could.
Yeah, Hervey would smash this over his knee with everything that he got done yesterday. You know what, Dregs? I want to start on another sport as well. When you're in the insider breaking business and you see a trade go down out of nowhere of significant implications in Doncic and AD, I mean, I know how we reacted, but what did you think of the way that went down?
Yeah, I mean, automatically you're sitting there going, you're trying to put it in hockey terms, right?
Yes.
And the significance of that. And I guess I'm reminded of the Mikko Rantanen trade to the Carolina Hurricanes. You know, all of us were swirling around Vancouver. We knew that the Carolina Hurricanes were in the market to do something significant. Nobody had Mikko Rantanen on the bingo card at this point of the season. Yeah, you can look at every pending unrestricted free agent. In this case, you're looking at a superstar and conjure up the idea, but no one was talking about it at that point. So, you know, I guess when I see trades like that go down, trades in other sports, it keeps the idea of possibility alive and well. And that's why, you know, we don't often talk about this, but you know, I'm sure that every general manager has that what if conversation. You know, I laugh, I chuckle, ha ha ha, as I'm about to say this. But how many people do you think actually call Kyle Davidson in Chicago and say, hey, I can't imagine you'll ever get to a place with Bedard in the next couple of years. But if you do, you know, if there's an appetite to go full scale change again, then, you know, those kind of conversations I'm sure take place. And maybe you hit one out of a million. And that's kind of where we're at now.
Darren Dreger with us on the show this morning. Hockey Insider brought to you by Pro-Am Sports. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel today. We would certainly appreciate that. Leafs and Oilers on Saturday. Hockey night in Canada. Smack dab in the spotlight of the nation. And
what a game.
I saw some people saying that first period Toronto played might have been one of their best of the season. I haven't watched the Leafs enough to agree or disagree with that, but where do you come out on how well they played early in that hockey game?
I would agree with that. I would. There was a sense of urgency and expectation in that game. I mean, Toronto knew that the Oilers were going to be feisty on home ice. They knew that. And, you know, there are so many different layers to the Oilers game. We don't have to go through that now. You've got educated fan base. But, you know, Toronto was well prepared, and it showed right out of the gate. But then post-game, you hear from Craig Berube, the head coach, and there's no doubt that he was thrilled that they secured the win. But it felt like that game was 60 seconds away from maybe not going the way that the Leafs were hoping for. I mean, they squandered the 3-goal lead twice. Yeah. So there were some takeaway concerns for the Maple Leafs. You know, why, you know, do you start as well as you did? Generate the offense that you did, find a way to build the lead that you did, and then you take your foot off the pedal, right? And so that would be the concern. But the start, yeah, that was exactly what they needed. And on top of that, yeah, they got the offense. That's been a bit of a question mark of late in Toronto. The goaltending hasn't been a question, but Joseph Woll elevated his game for that one. You know, he was a big reason why Toronto was able to get that 2 points after letting that game sag in the third period.
I was watching our post-game show with Gazzola and Matt Cassian after the game, and obviously Skinner's a very interesting topic in this market. Yeah. Goalies always will be. I just sort of wanted to ask, maybe I'm wrong, but the Oilers are not in the market for a goal. Like, people who keep saying the Oilers need to go out and get, like, Dregs, have you heard anything that this team would be remote? Okay, that's what I just wanted to get. I wanted to get it confirmed. Well, like, it makes no sense.
Well, I haven't heard anything, Dusty, but that's not to say that you don't have those conversations, right? And, you know, the majority of teams that don't have a good tandem or depth in that position or a stellar number one would probably have that bigger picture conversation. But again, you know, when you go into pro scouting meetings, and most teams have already been through that, you know, you've got your whiteboards and your presentations, and your pro scouts have identified, okay, here's top of class in this position, goaltending, defense, up front, you know, and center is always isolated, center ice. So then you start putting names down, and you know, you get pretty deep on that list. So I would assume they'd do that in goal as well. What if? Again, we started the conversation with that what if conversation, you know, what if scenario. Beyond that, I don't think so. I'm getting more of, you know, do they need help on the blue line? You know, is John Klingberg going to work out short-term, long-term? All that time will tell. And more specifically up front, you know, they do need that versatile forward, right? They need a penalty killer. They need a little bit more depth up there. If that player is a center, that's even better, but they need a versatile forward. I have not heard that they're scouring the market looking for a goalie upgrade.
Darren, too, I think you mentioned a passionate, knowledgeable fan base, but sometimes a highly reactive one. I don't know if management, you know, shares in that reaction, but, you know, missing a guy like Matthias Ekholm Saturday night as well, I mean, goes a long way in helping out and bailing out a goaltender, and you look at power play for the Leafs and everything going in. So, I mean, just him making such a difference when sometimes night after night you kind of he kind of hypnotizes you into this, like, you don't mention him as well, and you don't mention him until he does miss a game, and you're like, whoa, there's the big difference. That's the difference maker, and it can cause a lot of other things to happen around him, a la goaltending.
100% accurate. And it goes beyond Ekholm, but in this case, you're talking about a key piece. And then, you know, Oilers fans have grown to really appreciate what Matthias Ekholm brings to the team. And there's a different level of confidence in structure in how the Oilers play when he's in that lineup. And I don't know if Leaf fans in Alberta got a sense of this on Saturday in watching that game, but believe it or not, McCabe is that guy for the Toronto Maple Leafs. You know, I mean, every team needs an Ekholm and they need a McCabe, and there's different, you know, styles that they can provide. It's not like these guys are off the glass and out every single time. I mean, they're high hockey IQ players, and they can generate some offense as well. But you're just that much deeper, because when they're on the ice, there's a higher level of IQ that is being established from the D zone moving forward. He knows what his game is. His game is, you know, to, again, obviously defend, you know, in your own zone, but, you know, in the neutral zone as well, and then get the puck up to the guys that need the puck up front. And he does it as well as anybody in the league. You know, not to go down the path of all the good things that Ken Holland did, the bad things that Ken Holland did when general manager of the Edmonton Oilers. That's top of list, isn't it? Yeah. You know, that trade has to be top of list. And I remember following that story so closely, and the debate and the criticism and the arguments for Jake Chychrun versus this guy versus that guy, and all of the speculation around, you know, who's the defenseman. And then Kenny walks out with Matthias Ekholm, and now we know. I mean, that was just a masterful piece of management there in acquiring Ekholm at the time that they did.
Yeah, if he doesn't acquire him, I mean, they're not where they are today. It's
and it's very glaring when he's out of the lineup.
It's 100%.
Yeah, he's their best defenseman. I mean, that's what they acquired in Ekholm. I think he's their best defenseman. You know, when it comes to these two teams, just as I watched them on, you know, great first period for the Leafs, Oilers, you know, Wool stood on his head for the final 40 minutes. All I could think of was, what are these teams going to look like after the deadline? And I guess my question for you, Dregs, would be, which of these two teams do you see being more active prior to the deadline, or at least trying to be more active?
Well, similar situations. And it's always about what is available and what is your appetite to pay a price, right? So, you know, I talked a little bit about what I think the Oilers are looking for, and that's that versatile forward, a guy who can kill penalties and all of that. Toronto has a more defined need up front, and that's center ice. And so Mikael Granlund goes to the Dallas Stars from the San Jose Sharks, along with Cody Ceci. Again, talk about management. That's good work by Jimmy Nill and the Dallas Stars. Now, they had the cap space to pull it off, so that matters. But Granlund is a piece that I know Toronto and lots of teams were swirling around, right? So now he's out of the mix. So, you know, Toronto is looking at lots of rumors around Scott Laughton and the Philadelphia Flyers. Philadelphia doesn't love the idea of trading Lawton because he's a good character guy. I think he's going to get traded. Can Danny Briere get a first-round pick? We're going to find out. But there seems like a more defined need in Toronto than what I said earlier about the Oilers and what they might be doing.
Darren Dreger joining us, TSN, here on the Nielsen Show, Edmonton Sports Talk. We do have a Flames troll that always tunes in religiously to us.
Oh, very good.
Can't get enough of us. He's kind of pissed we didn't talk about Farabee and Frost earlier in the hour. But just your thoughts on that as well. And I kind of wanted your thoughts. I mean, obviously, the JT Miller deal out of Vancouver. But your thoughts on the trades that have sprinkled out thus far. And who do you think, I mean, we've already seen maybe Philly, but who's going to be your biggest, I guess, seller as we approach to or hit the deadline?
That's a good question. Nashville has gone quiet of late, right? So I don't think that Barry Trotz is done. I wouldn't necessarily call him a defined seller because, normally when you look at sellers, you're looking at teams that are embracing a rebuild, and that's not what they're trying to do in Nashville. But I do think he's going to move some pieces out. I talked about Scott Lawton and the Flyers. So Morgan Frost was, of course, a player in play. Ristolainen has a couple of years left on his deal. He's gathering interest and will right up until March 7th or until they trade him. So Philadelphia doesn't necessarily want to sell, but they want to continue to create cap space because I think that they're getting a strong feel in Philadelphia that fan base needs an injection. They need something that they can build some hope around. And Philadelphia wants to get into the big game hunting mode. They do. And maybe that's as early as this offseason. So, by definition, maybe Philadelphia does. If they move Ristolainen, they move Scott Lawton, and they move another piece, and you throw Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee into that equation, well, I think that's pretty much the definition of a seller, right? Yeah. So there'll be other teams that are bottom feeders, of course. Columbus is interesting. They're not bottom feeder. They're very much in contention. Yeah. What are they going to do there? They've got contract negotiations going on with Provorov, Matthew Olivier, who I can't imagine they trade this guy for all that he does for that team. But there's some teams that we are definitely circling around that are going to be interesting to watch.
Dregs, as always, man, we appreciate it. When's the next episode of Ray and Dregs drop?
Yeah, we're threatening to drop one tomorrow. It's all around Ray's schedule, man. This guy is all over the map right now.
I don't know. Do you track his phone? How do you keep track of him? You got like a tracker on his phone?
Well, it's not that. It's kind of funny. He doesn't always find it humorous, but I do, because he gets lost in time zones. Like Eastern to Mountain to Pacific, that's a tough one for Ray to manage. It is. So we'll collectively agree on, say, 7:30 Eastern. And then all of a sudden it just doesn't pan out that way. So Tuesday, Thursday, fellas, is what we're hoping for. We've got Mike Keenan on. I should grab the book. Hold on.
Oh, that'll be good. That'll be good.
I don't know. Can you see that?
There it is. Iron Mike. Yeah.
Yeah. Iron Mike. There you go. So that's the new book that's out. Which was written by Scotty Morrison, who's a good friend of mine. So he's going to come on Thursday, which makes sense given all the turmoil that he went through as a coach, as a general manager, and then had international success. You guys might be too young, but 1987 Canada Cup, kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
So Keenan's going to walk us down to the international pages of this book as well.
That'll be a great chat. Looking forward to that, Drakes. We'll catch up next Monday.
Okay, have a good one, guys.
There you go. That's Darren Dreger, Ray Drake's podcast, and of course, NHL Insider with TSN, brought to you by Pro-Am Sports.